Buenas tardes to everyone, or buenos dias. It depends on when this thing is going to come on, but we'd like to welcome you to a very special event today, where in honor of Chicano Park 51, we're wanting to highlight and hear the voices of many of the early activists that were part of the movement at Chicano Park. Yes, believe it or not, these young people were part of the movement 51 years ago, but here they are and still, have much to say and much to share. So my name is Alberto Pulido, and I'm a proud member of the Chicano Park Steering Committee, and I've been given the honor to lead the conversation here. This will be part of a bigger event that's going to be going on the entire week. So make sure you go to Chicano Park website, and there's going to be an active link and everything from events beginning on Monday through the weekend, ending with a wonderful art show on Saturday. So there's a lot to see and a lot to do. So spread the word and let people know on social media that this is a very special week for us. And hopefully with COVID coming to an end, we will see each and every one of us together at Chicano Park Day next year. So to begin with, we have 5 questions, and we have incredible panelists here on the call. And if I could, I'd like to quickly go through a brief introduction, and then let me ask people that in the introduction speak to your relationship to the steering committee. And just to make it easier in the flow here, I'm gonna just call on folks and then have people in that window to introduce themselves, say a few words about the steering committee, and then let's keep going. And then after that, we'll go right into our questions. So let me start off with Lucas and Tommie and the chief here. Let's hear some introductions, brief introductions, telling us hello and how you're tied to the steering committee.
Hi, I'm Tommie Camarillo, and I was just told that I'm chairperson for the Chicano Park Steering Committee for life. I didn't sign up for life, but my life is going pretty fast. Ni modo. And that's my introduction. And I'm happy to be here. And out of that COVID crap. And I don't want to put it down too much because it might strike me in the butt or something. But ni modo.
And my name is Lucas Cruz. I'm a member of the Chicano Park Steering Committee. I'm a board member of the Chicano Park Museum and Cultural Center. And I'm also a member of the Brown Berets de San Diego.
I'm Patricia Cruz, and I'm a member of the Chicano Park Steering Committee, and I'm also a Chicano Park muralist. Happy to be here.
Annie, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm Annie Ross. I've been a member of the Chicano Park Steering Committee for about 20 years or so. And it's just been fabulous, though. I don't know where the 20 years went, let alone 51. Nice to see you all.
Tina.
Hi, my name is Tina Camarillo. I've been involved with the Chicano Park Steering Committee since 1970 in the takeover, where I was 2 years old by my mom's side. I'm presently the vice chair of the Chicano Park Steering Committee. I have been in charge of security the past 15 years. I was trained by our great Howard Holman, and that's about it.
Gracias. The Sanchez family.
Buenas tardes. My name is Isabel Enriquez Sanchez. I was 16 years old when we took over Chicano Park, and I've been involved with Chicano Park since then in 1970. Originally one of the founding members with my parents of the Ballet Folklorico in Aztlán, one of the the first folklorico to actually dance there at Chicano Park. Been involved with the Chicano Park Steering Committee for more than 40 years. And buenas tardes, my name is Itzcalli Alegría Sanchez. I'm Isabel's oldest daughter. I've been involved with CPSC since before I was born. It's a world that I've always known. It will never go away. I actively still live it with my family and pass on to my children and my grandchildren now, my mom's great-grandchildren, my brothers and sisters, and I'm happy to be part of this panel.
Muchas gracias, Jesse. You're on mute, Jesse.
Hello, my name is Jesse Constancio. I'm a member of the Chicano Park Steering Committee. I'm a board member of the Chicano Park Museum and Cultural Center. I've been involved with the Movimiento all of my adult life.
I love that hat, Jesse.
I got it from a good camarada.
Órale. Hey, Víctor, por favor.
Buenas tardes, everybody. And everybody that's joining us, I hope you can link it into all next week. Should be pretty exciting. I'm one of the mural painters, and I have had the great pleasure to be able to paint with hardly no censorship for 50 years. So I really love to tell people that, because hardly anybody understands what that means, where you're free to paint all the different issues that has something to do with Chicanos. And we still are doing the issues. No se acaba. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Victor. Josie.
Hello, everybody. My name is Josephine Talamantes. I'm a member of the Chicano Park Steering Committee, member of the Chicano Park Museum and Cultural Center, and been involved in the steering committee from the inception, but was gone for many years. I was living in Northern California, but I'm still a member. I still maintain my membership. So, and I'm a Chicana India activist, and aquí estoy and no me voy.
Gracias, Rigoberto.
¿Qué ole? Buenas tardes to everybody. My name is Rigoberto Reyes. I'm a proud member of the Chicano Park Steering Committee for the past 45 years or so, at last count. I'm also a board member of the Chicano Park Museum and Cultural Center. Through my work with VIA International, we're also the proud host of the Chicano Park Steering Committee, being the fiscal sponsor. My direct role, besides being on the working committee, is also coordinating the Lowrider Car Show every year. I hope you enjoy the presentation.
Muchas gracias. Thank you again, everyone. Greatly appreciate the introductions. It's humbling to hear and to reflect on this call, some very, very important voices. So it's an honor again to be here. I have 4 questions, and I'm going to ask it and then again run through the same order to have everybody reflect on it. If you'd like me to repeat it, I'd be happy to do that. But here is question number 1. As we know, Chicano Park is defined as a land takeover. That's probably one of the most important aspects of the park. So what I'd like you to do as you reflect on that, what do you think it means to you personally, and what does it mean to you as an active member of the steering committee for something that happened 51 years ago? So I begin with the Camarillo Cruz family.
Well, I lost a lot of my youth. I know that much. But I'm very proud to have been part of the takeover of Chicano Park, and from the city, the part that we took from the state. And I'm happy that I'm still here. you know, to be part of all that the younger generations are doing. And I'm so very proud of all of the younger, especially my grandson and his girlfriend and wife. Oh, they're married. I didn't know that. Well, anyway, I can still remember and picture in my mind, so I must not be that old. I can picture in my mind the exact place that I stood on and would not let no one get near that wasn't approved by the committee. And that's something that I'll always remember because, you know, we weren't playing around. We took the land and we stayed on the land to make sure that the community was going to get what was theirs to begin with. Is that enough? Thank you, Sonny.
Nothing else from your group?
No, I guess, you know, on my end, I think when I hear about the land, you know, Tommie's my grandmother. So hearing her talk about the land and how important it is for us to maintain the stewardship over it over the years. I mean, Tommie, she's dedicated her life to this. So she'd be the one that would get there in the morning, turn on the power, turn off the power. When we were kids, she'd have us cleaning. You know, I was always part of the Jose Gomez Brigade. And then I started coordinating it. She'd have us in the wagon there. But that just ties back to the importance of the land. You know, when it comes to the land, we have to maintain it because it's the people's land. You know, it's not because it's our land personally, it's for the people to enjoy. So it's always about maintaining the park, the cleanliness, so others can enjoy it, so they can come and learn their history, so they can have that experience that might get them into the Chicano movement, to take on that form of activism wherever they are in their community.
And for me, it's an honor and a privilege to be by my mother's side all these years. I was 2 years old when we took over the park, and I've been there with my mom through thick and thin. Boy, I tell you, my mom is the person that has never left Chicano Park. You know, our birthdays, my kids' birthdays, everything was put to the side, you know, because Chicano Park Day is coming. So, I mean, it makes me proud, you know, to know that everything that my mom fought for, I went there and I was with her through all those years of the struggle. And now to see my son take such an active role, you know, and being just like my mom was back in the day in the park, 724, taking care of things, it makes me proud, you know, it makes me proud. And to see so much that we have accomplished, like the bathrooms and things like that, that makes my heart full, because those are things that my mom fought for so many years, and she's able to be here and see these things come to light, you know. So I mean, it's an honor. It makes me proud. It makes my heart full.
Was I next?
I'll just go real quick. I just want to say I'm a newer member. I came during the restoration. It's where I got to meet Victor Ochoa, and I got to meet Tommie and the rest of the committee. And I've been here since. I plan to continue to contribute in any way, and it really has changed the way I look at doing community work, and really changed the way I look at the movement. And so I really am just honored to be a part of it.
Very good. Annie, por favor.
Well, in some ways, I'm going to follow up on Patricia's in that, you know, we talk about the land takeover, but also to be a part of something. I'm just so honored to be a part. I've been honored to be at Tommie's side and been under her guidance for so many years through so many meetings, whether it's the bathrooms or the mural restoration or, you know, 8 billion Parks and Recs meetings or Caltrans or whoever was doing whatever, and how long these things take, because it takes forever. So it's always sort of the land takeover, but it's more than that, because we still have to fight every single day while we still enjoy it. But what we can do as a community and the unity that brings out in everyone is just, you know, tremendous. sort of being with a group of people that know, doesn't matter how many hills we have to climb. Aquí estamos y no nos vamos. It's always going to be, there's always going to be core members. It is great to have new members and people that are here to do all sorts of different things, and things change. So, what else we do in addition to commemorating the takeover, but also, would we have a garden that we can be growing food to help feed the community, or having now the museum, things like that. It's really exciting to see how things have changed, but, because sometimes the protagonists do more or less active, but still moving forward and continuing not just the land takeover, but making it ours, and how we make it ours, meaning the communities.
Gracias. Familia Sanchez, por favor.
Thank you. In thinking about it and in retrospect, I see it not so much as the takeover, but as a retaking of the indigenous land that is ours and our native Kumeyaay brothers and sisters, the concept of Aslan and our homelands, and that spirit of the earth. That we aren't, like we say, we're stewards of Chicano Park. We don't own the land. We're caretakers, we're stewards, we're protectors of the land. And this is what's important for us to remember and to pass on to our generations and our generations. And also, for me, llevando la palabra de Chunky Sanchez and continuing on with all his work and his legacy and passing that on to our familia and our generations. We're 5 generations of being involved at Chicano Park.
Yeah, kind of going off of what my mom's saying, what I was thinking in retrospect, and when we're defining the land takeover or the land caretaking, seeing and being part of the generations of our family, it's always been a sanctuary for our families, all of our families here on this panel, and other families, community families that have been there for decades and been part of this park and the struggle and the movement and the sacrifices. It's been a huge impact on how we live our lives and how strongly we feel about our community and this park, and why it's still here, why we're still fighting for it, why it's going to be here for another 51 years and then some. And that's really important to us and to me and to my family and to all of us here, so that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Jesse, por favor.
You're on mute, Jesse.
All right. As I listened to the other members talking and took a little ride down memory lane, and how fast the time passed, passed so fast. But I remember as a young man being so excited that Chicano Park was this revolutionary act that had taken place. And it was just the first piece of land that was going to be taken. And before you knew it, we were going to get all of our land back, But I've learned so much since then. And like Isabel said, it's not our land because it's nobody owns the land. But as stewards of the park, I've learned so much about what struggle and sacrifice means. And everybody that you see here have made tremendous sacrifices. Their children have made tremendous sacrifices. And those sacrifices were always because at the end of the day, we do things that know that the things need to dramatically change. But none of it's been easy. You've heard, people say, about, getting the bathrooms or getting this or getting that. My God, we have to fight for toilet paper in the park. We have to fight for the lighting in the park. We have to fight, for the every single thing you see in that park was a part of the people's struggle. And so I'm just so proud to be a part of that. I'm proud of the other people here who are in the committee, who have dedicated their life. And I'm just honored to be a part of this. And but the dream of a revolution has never ended. But I understand now more so than I did as a young man, that, and not in a romanticized way, it's not something that happens overnight. It's something we work for every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Victor.
Hello. There's three things that I always think about when we think of the earth. I slept in a teepee one day, and I asked everybody, can we see a white picket fence around the teepee? That everybody laughed. I think that our attitude about property and who belongs to the land is very Europeanized as far as this attitude. When I painted Emiliano Zapata, and I saw the eyes go through the horizon of the land of Chicano Park, I sensed the realization that this history of trying to retain our land is something that's been going on since 1492, and that's why this issue of immigration has this big old wall, which again is like they're trying to cover us up. They're trying to split us from our land, and it's like a continuous reminder that those are the issues that Chicanos have been dealing with for at least 50 years, and they still go on. Let's remove these walls. Let's remove these fences, and let's get rid of gentrification. Que viva la tierra.
Que viva.
Que viva.
Por favor. Josie, por favor.
I guess for me, Chicano Park is sacred land. It's the corazon. I don't think I have all the words to say without becoming very emotional about what Chicano Park and the monumental murals does for me. It reminds me of a time when we didn't have a voice, and we finally got tired of being thrown or kicked to the side, not being accepted in Mexico, not being accepted here, and trying to figure out, for me personally, who am I? Where do I fit? And being involved in the takeover of Chicano Park opened my eyes to what it means to stand up in self-determination and in a defense of our community. It reminds me daily when I walk by the park or I'm in the park of my ancestors and my friends who have gone, who have passed, who were part of the takeover, that have deep roots in this community. And, I can say that for Logan Heights, but in general in this region. And again, it's hallowed land, it's sacred land. And I'll die fighting for it, as I'm sure everybody on this panel would. Feliz Dios.
Feliz Dios. Rigoberto.
Wow, it's kind of hard to follow that. How people refer to Chicano Park, and I'm glad that the question focuses so much on the takeover, because unfortunately very few people know about that takeover. That Chicano Park was a takeover. It wasn't given to us. It was a takeover, and especially young people need to really, really reflect and understand that. Myself being a product of the Chicano movement, and like somebody mentioned earlier, as far as the whole concept of Aztlán, I think Chicano Park is kind of like the heart of that concept of Aztlán. And for me, what the park represents, probably more than anything is resistance. The resistance against an establishment that has control and has avoided to deal with us and treat us in such a way, in a very oppressive way. So Chicano Park to us is, like somebody said before, sacred land. It's our place of we feel like home. So anyway, gracias, and I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, I'm just reflecting on that. Those of you who hear this and maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when some of us are no longer here, that you remember the foundation of this movimiento so we don't forget it. And I think it's been said in the wonderful responses here at this current moment. I'm gonna move the questions around because this feels like some really good energy here, and I want to jump to question 4, those of you who have the list, and because I think it follows better than what I had for question 3. And it says the following: the Chicano movement was a national movement some over 50 years ago that transformed all of our lives in many ways. In what way, or in what ways was and is the movimiento important because of the establishment of the park? And another way of asking that question is, we know there was, movements all over the Southwest. We know there was movements even in places like Chicago, Denver, Colorado, Sacramento, El Paso. But what is it that makes the movimiento in San Diego unique, especially because of the land base and because of La Tierra Mía of Chicano Park? So let me again begin with the Camarillo Cruz family.
My grandson, which you all know, Lucas, he took a trip to the Southwest, and they have a Chicano Park there now. Actually, right? Mm-hmm. A Chicano Park in El Paso, due to Lucas introducing them first to Chicano Park. But that's my little input.
That was actually you, Tommie. You helped him establish it with the correspondence.
Oh yeah, and they wanted what do you call it?
The kiosco.
The blueprints to the kiosco. And even though it was my grandson that took them for me, I was still really, praying that they were going to come back on in one piece. But the movement, to me, has educated me in a lot of ways. Because the older I get, the more I learn. And I'm learning it from the youth, the younger people. And I appreciate it. And I thank you all for all you have been teaching me. Because I was just, a bare little rabbit when I got involved. But the only thing that really held on to me was the radicalism. But I've learned more through, like I said, my grandson and other young people who have, stood up and woke people up, a lot of us up. And I appreciate that. Thank you. Where's Josie? I remember also in the takeover of Chicano Park, and Josie was a big plus to that.
Just following you along, girl. Just following you.
I remember when I used to go and wait for you when we were going to go to a party or something,
Let's not
And
talk,
you leave me.
let's not tell all the details, Tommie.
Please do. Please do.
Okay, next.
Can you repeat the question, Alberto?
Yeah, just I guess in a nutshell, I have heard from a lot of people here and other parts of the country that what makes our struggle around the movement different is because we had the parque. And I know that, you know, there was activity going on before the takeover, but to a certain degree, I think there was something special about the fact that, you know, for other people, maybe they got a new school or maybe they got more money in their community or they got a hospital or whatever. But in our case, we got a park. And I think there's something to be said about that. And I think it's very something we should be very proud of, but it also made for a very different movimiento. And I just like to get people's perspective on that.
But we didn't get it. We took it.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. To me, there's a big difference is that we didn't get it.
You took it.
We took it.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think, you know, for myself, you know, I wasn't there during the actual event, of course. And, you know, now.
You were, remember, I put you in the stroller.
You know, years later, when I was able to get involved, you know, the thing with the park, for me, I think what it serves as an example, you know, of what that can do. And it's a long-standing example, and it's due to the people here fighting for the integrity of the park itself. Because you can have a lot of things happen, and then over time, it changes or Hispanicizes in our case. Mm-hmm. You know, and for us to have this park and do the work and of integrity and always having that at the forefront, you know, we don't work with politicians. We don't have them, you know, grandstanding in the park. We don't have the police coming in the park. We make sure that when we are there and we're having anything in the park, it's equal opportunity for everybody. You know, if you can give, you can give. If you can't, you're still able to have access to it. And for myself growing up, and I've always applied the ideologies that was instilled in me through Tommie, you know, in my schoolwork, you know, in my community where I could, you know, and just being able to be a part and volunteering, you learn to humble yourself. You know, you learn that it's not about you, it's not about your ego, it's about doing what you can. And the park, just seeing how it's thrived over the years due to the work of everybody here, and even members that aren't here, members that have passed, you know, like Ronnie Trujillo, you know, Howard Holman, and Marco Anguiano, you know, all these people that come to mind. It's just that effort. And just seeing that in a physical manifestation for me is what makes our movement special, is that you can point to it and say, you know, you don't have to sell out. Look, you're right there. You don't have to do that. You don't have to take that route. You don't have to go get educated and go, you know, find a path and get yourself set up in a nonprofit to succeed. You know, the Chicano Park Steering Committee, we've done it our own way. We've done it on the fly, and it works. You know, and that's how we've been able to do it. And when I see that in the park, I think that's what makes it special for us.
I think that for me, when I think about the park and I think about the Chicano movement in San Diego, what I see is the physical form, the manifestation of self-determination. And what I see is also a vibration that I think other people are only reading in history books now. You take a Chicano studies class and there it is, Chicano Park. And so to be able to come here and really feel the vibration and the community, what it's really taken, the struggle of getting the bathrooms, the struggle of taking the park over, the struggle of, you know, making it safe, you know, making it safe by working with the community. It is truly ongoing work, and it is something that I think you can feel. Definitely, you can feel it. And when we went through the Southwest and out throughout Aslan, and we visited different parks and different communities, you know, Chicano Park is really, I think, the Mecca for a lot of people. It's a great example of what can really happen in a community. And, you know, people are really looking to the Chicano Park Steering Committee and all the work that they've done so that they can have that self-determination within their own barrios. And then I think that's a reflection of what else can happen. If you can take over a park, what else can you take over? Can you really, you know, make your own community a cultural district? It's really an effect, I think, that takes over the whole movement, but it does. I believe in San Diego begins with the park.
Okay, thank you. Annie, por favor.
I think it's Tina.
Oh, go ahead, Tina.
Tina first.
Well, to me, it's an honor and it's a privilege. And to be honest with you, I never really fought for anything else but the park. My mom always taught me, you never put your feet in too many places. She always said, if you're gonna be a part of an organization, she says, you do one and you give 100% to it. And that's why my mom never ever got involved with different organizations and whatnot. So, I mean, everything I've learned from my mom. I've learned from Ronnie. I've learned from Jose Gomez, Holy Moly, and so many people, and it's just something that's instilled in me. And I think it's important, to share what we've been through with our youth. I mean, our youth is so smart. They're so smart, so educated. So if they would humble themselves and learn from our elders, can you imagine how much we can get done, and how much we can protect our little jewel under the bridge? That's I mean how I feel about all of it. And to me, everything learning I've learned from being around the park. I was in the park my entire life. I learned from my mom, and I learned from everybody around me. So that's how I feel about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Annie.
Um, Gosh, it's sort of an overwhelming question in some ways, because I think about just all my community activism. But because I grew up in LA, not in San Diego, I didn't come here until like 22 years ago. But community activism has always been a very big part. But I think one of the other things that makes Chicano Park particularly unique and sacred is that you do have this tangible place. As you mentioned, I've been through millions of marches, it feels like, in my life. There, always keep on fighting, and that's important. But to have this tangible place where, is a space for community that continues to evolve because of the community, because of that self-determination, is really something unique and special. And I'm just happy to be a part, and have been so honored to be a part of the group, and particularly with Tommie's leadership. I do feel a little sad if I wasn't talking to her at least 3-4 times a day.
Great. Thank you. Familia Sanchez.
You're on mute.
Okay, hear me? Okay. Yeah, I just want to recap what everybody else has said. I think it's in the land base. The land base is really a big part of the whole concept with the movimiento, and why so many people see Chicano Park as el corazón de Aztlán or the Southwest, or as a mecca for Chicanos, because as Annie said, it is a tangible place. It's la tierra sagrada, and like we've said before, this one day out of the year, people come from all over to reunificar on Chicano Park Day. It could be like we were in the plaza of Teotihuacan. To me, Chicano Park, the kiosco, this is our Teotihuacan. This is our Tajín. This is our sacred place for us to regather with our antepasados, with the spirits of those that have gone on before us, with the spirits of those that we've recently lost, and renew ourselves, renew our spirit. And lots of people say the Chicano movement is dead. It's not dead. No, I have living daughters, living children, living grandchildren, living great-grandchildren. There are generations upon generations. And these seeds que sembramos en la tierra sagrada de Chicano Park, those seeds have sprouted and gone on to sprout in other places like El Paso and Denver, Arizona, all over.
Mm-hmm. She pretty much put it all in what I was saying, but just to reiterate, I mean, growing up, what my mom was saying, being in the endless boycotts, part of protests, marches, growing up, decades of this, whether it be in San Diego or outside of San Diego, Northern Cali, Arizona, you know, UFW marches, farm worker marches. We always took a piece of the park and that feeling with us and that movement with us and that pridefulness with us. And we shared that and people knew, where we're coming from. And it's just something that you bounce off your people and your community and the energy and the circle of love and life and your generations and everything you have to bring with that movement. You're passing it on, you're touching people and vice versa. I think that's something that always grounded us as a family, grounded the community as a family, because you have something that you're prideful of, something that you have strength and you can declare that you're a part of.
Okay, gracias, Jesse.
All right. Thank you. I'd like to start out by saying that as I sit and listen, and then even before this, and I realize how fortunate I am to be part of such a beautiful family, the folks that you see here. And for those people that are not part of what we do on a day-to-day basis, it's hard to understand what this really means to us and how it comes to us. I think about being here again. This today has kind of forced me to go back in time. And I remember that when I started out, to me, it was all about Chicanismo. It was all about the idea that this young kid who was growing up in the projects, really tapado, had no idea who I was, where I came from, any of that. And then taking Chicano studies and finding out that I was part of this huge family. And that was prior to Chicano Park. And I always felt in the beginning there would not be any Chicano Park without the Chicano movement. With people like Corky Gonzalez and Cesar Chavez and Reyes Tejerina and Luis Angel Gutierrez that really set the foundation for our generation. But as time gone on, I realize now that there wouldn't be any movement without Chicano Park. And that Chicano Park is really what's kind of held us together. And I know a lot of people who don't know anything about us or don't know about the day-to-day struggles are just listening right now. And I'm sure they're saying, why have they brought up the bathrooms like 4 times? Well, I think that's a good example, see, because so many things happen in other parks that you just take for granted. Just like we had to take the land to get the park, we had to, we had to fight for everything, including the playground, the garbage can, the kiosco, the right to be who we are in our own park. That's been an ongoing struggle. And then also within our own community, to educate folks that this is a sacred piece of land, that it doesn't belong to any just one individual, that it belongs to all of us. And that's a beautiful thing. It touches my heart when I go to the park and I see little children playing and realizing that they have, because of all the people you see here, these young kids have a place where they can come and feel at home. I just like to add one last thing here because, somebody, Isabel, is talking about the Chicano movement being dead and saying that and declaring that it's not dead. And I'm with Isabel. See, the problem we have right now is a lot of people don't even know that they're Chicano. Because when we got started in this struggle, it wasn't about, the right to eat frijoles. It was about a lack of frijoles. And I think that struggle is still here today. If you are the child or grandchild of an immigrant, if your parents go to work every day and you feel like even as hard as they work, that somehow other people have more than you have, if you feel that the education that you get is inadequate, and if you feel that as you walk out into society that you're not respected for the person that you are, you probably don't even know it, but you're Chicano. And because that's what our struggle was born in. Our struggle was born out of the conditions that we were living in and are still living in. So just like we've had to fight for the playground, the kiosco, and the toilets, as a community, we have to fight for better housing. We have to fight for better education. We have to fight, to gain our due respect. I'm outraged. I am outraged that a young Chicano can be killed 13 years old. And where is the outrage? And I get a lot of calls from people, so this is not right, that's not right. What's not right, is for us to point it somewhere else. We have to take the responsibility as the community did in Chicano Park, to take on these issues. The struggle is never easy. If it was easy, they'd call it an easy. It's not. It's a struggle. So the park has helped keep that struggle alive. I am so proud to be a part of this family. I'm humbled and honored to be a part of this sacred space, and just would like to encourage young people all over who are listening. And I'm with Tina. I'm amazed, totally amazed, because I've been at this for a long time. And the movement comes and goes. It's like the ocean. It ebbs and it flows. And there were times where people would laugh at you, like, you were some kind of museum relic or something. Chicano, who's Chicano? You know what I mean? But now that I see an uprise of young people coming who are so well educated and well armed and so well prepared. And again, like, Tina said, this is your struggle, young people. It's not our struggle, but you would be wise to take a minute to talk to the elders, not just the elders here, but the elders in your own home, to not let escape the path, not to let escape the struggles that we have before us. And just once again, so proud to be a part of this movement and so proud to be a part of this park.
Okay, Victor.
Very nicely said. As I'm looking at the back of Josie's screen there, where you could see the pillars, everybody see that? Josie Talamantes you don't have to take your head off of there.
Well, if you want to see all of them.
Yeah. But, and I guess you got to be over 70 to feel the spiritual energy. But I think that even the young people are feeling that energy. And when I see these pillars, I think of a mesa de bastones, the medicine table where you have staffs, placed on there, and it receives the energy, for that particular ceremony. Now that I see the pillars like that, they remind me of these staffs of medicine, of energy. And I think that to me now, Chicano Park is like a temple in a certain way, a place that has this energy. And every time I carry my little folding chair and I'll sit whatever area I like, I get that energy from that part. In this whole thing of gentrification in recent years, to me, the park always acts as an obstacle, also as a stumbling place for these people that are coming from the ballpark or downtown, and they want to just take over the barrio. The park acts as that, almost like a defense area for us, and it has that power. So I always feel that the park is like standing up in concrete, ready to throw chingazos, like, don't mess with us, because we got the energy right here. Que viva Chicano Park.
Que viva.
Que viva.
Josephine.
Yeah. Well, talking about the Chicano movement, I have to take a step back for me personally when I think about Chicano Park, because, I knew the families that lived in the houses where Chicano Park is today. I grew up, swinging on a tire swing in the park before it was the park. And like I said, not being from Mexico, not being called anything other than a pocha when I went to Mexico, being on this side, not being recognized really as a human being. Being told that I was less than, I'm not really an American, but yet, my family had been here over 100 years. Growing up here, it was a Navy retirement town, very conservative because this was the United States and that was Mexico, Tijuana. And I never understood that because my grandma was in Tijuana, my tias were in Tijuana. Whether they liked me there or not, those were my family. I was there. I could go back and forth. Being exposed to the Chicano movement opened my eyes. Reading Rudy Acuña's book, Occupied America, just blew me away and had me thinking and trying to figure out, what was my place, and I'm still trying to figure out what is my place. But at that point, when we knew that they were going to try to build a highway patrol station there, like Yolanda Lopez said in the Chicano Park film, we didn't need any more police because the police, it's all a big thing right now. Police are killing Black and brown kids. They've been killing Black and brown kids all along, Asian kids, and we didn't need any more police here. And we just, I think, took a step in terms of self-determination to create our own park. And I thought it was important. I mean, I'll go back to Tommie and I laughing about, some of the crazy things we were doing at that time. And I have to say that those were fun times, but you know what? We were working really, really hard. Just because you are having fun doesn't mean you don't work. And I learned that when I ended up in Sacramento with the Royal Chicano Air Force. We were having fun, but we were working our butts off, working for the community, doing silkscreen posters and, being activists. And I felt like I was home there because it reminded me of Logan Heights. The community of the Royal Chicano Air Force reminded me of the Chicano Park Steering Committee community. When I left City College to go over to UCS, I didn't fit. I'll tell you right now, beautiful, wonderful school, but I didn't fit. And I couldn't figure out why. I tried to go to Berkeley because I'm thinking, activism, I got to be there. I didn't fit there either, but at least there was a different consciousness at that school. Wasn't perfect. So for me, the Chicano movement really was a compliment because when we took over Chicano Park, my mom was going, "What are you doing?" And I eventually told her, "Take a class, Mom. You always wanted to go on to school." And she did. The next thing I know, she's worse than I am, marching down the street, and I'm not going to say what she was saying, but fuck the pigs. My mom was an activist. And, I was like, oh, okay, she gets it. Not that she needed much to push her that way, but, and recently, before I change it, recently, I had the privilege of participating in a plática for an exhibition in the Central Valley, Seen and Unseen, Legacy and Art of Ricardo Favela. Ricardo Favela, if you remember, painted in Chicano Park. His photograph is front and center in the mural, the book that Victor and David and other people put together for mural restoration. And in that, recognizing, there was a panel that they had that was of young City College students, College of Sequoia, and high school students. And they were blown away by Richard's work. The little batitos, this is before homies and all that. The little batitos, next generation of the Pachucos. But why I'm saying this is because what I felt out of that youth is what I felt when I was young and we took over Chicano Park. I felt like they were seeing work that validated who they are as Chicanos. And, you know, the Central Valley is really hard. I mean, it's like bad as the Imperial Valley, you know, we're the workers. We're the farm workers, you know. You could be in the richest county in the whole California, 5th largest economy in the world. So basically the poorest place in the world. And yet, you know, the people, you know, I mean, the richest place in the world, I'm sorry, but yet the people are extremely poor because they're farm workers and no one pays attention to us. And the Chicano movement, I think, is still alive and well. I agree with you, Isabel. Many people, oh, it was between 1966 and 1987. I don't think so. Chicano movement is still alive in our heart, and we're going for it. And I seen that in the Central Valley in the last month, and I was so excited to see that energy. When I think of the Chicano movement and I think of Chicano Park, I think of Tina dancing, a little tiny little girl dancing in the park, little Azteca or ballet folklorico. I mean, you know, it just brings so much love to me. And Chicano Park is the result of this community's activism themselves. This community was strong, even though we were a segregated community. But the takeover of Chicano Park led to the takeover of the neighborhood house, which was our basic cultural center before Chicano Park. The takeover of the Centro Cultural de la Raza, which initially was the Ford building. It was our involvement in the Chicano moratorium. And it was our standoff as people were infiltrating us left and right. And I experienced the same thing when I was in Sacramento with the RCAF. You know, all those state workers and everybody was infiltrating, you know. So the Chicano movement, for me, is what brought me to the point of actually finishing my education and working in the communities again. I think without the Chicano movement, I'm not sure I would have finished because, you know, I don't know if I had a purpose. The Chicano Park takeover gave me purpose, gave me, the Chicano movement gave me purpose to believe in myself and to use anything that I had gained along the way to benefit the community. And I think that's where all of you on this screen here are in the same place. And I need to stop because I'm going to start crying. Que viva Chicano Park.
Viva.
Yeah.
Rigo.
Viva.
Well, once again, it's kind of hard to follow that. You know, one thing that really stuck in mind and is so true about Chicano Park, and particularly the Chicano movement as it pertains here to San Diego. Josie mentioned something very, very important that I think sometimes we lose track of. The fact is that San Diego is a conservative town. It's a conservative military town. And for us as a community to stand against that, to stand against an establishment that's so conservative, and that in the case of this particular community, the Logan Heights and Chicano Park and the Chicano movement, I think even makes it more special and unique in a sense, because to a great extent, we're swimming against the current. We're swimming against the current of politicians that are against us from the get-go. And I think that's what reinforces, I think, Chicano Park. The fact that we are, I think to some extent, the fact that there is a conservative town has worked to our advantage, if you will, because it has forced us to fight against that. To me, that's what really stands out. And what I stated earlier, being a product of the Chicano movement, I was a kid. I was 12 years old doing the takeover of Chicano Park. But where I grew up in San Isidro, similar things were happening. Same thing that was happening here. People move you out from your own house. you got to move because the freeways are coming. That's what happened to my family. And that's how come I relate so much to Chicano Park, because we were going through the same thing. Underrepresented communities, the standards comes and tells you, you gotta move because the freeways are coming. And essentially, I think that's the beauty of us still being here. And everybody that has spoken is very right. The Chicano movement is still here. We're still here. Gracias.
Very good. I'm going to collapse two questions into one.
Alberto,
Yes.
you're being a moderator, but you have voice as well. And I haven't heard your voice because you're directing with the questions.
Well, I mean, my thought on this question is very profound because it's just what's important about the work here in the community, and it's because of all of your valiant efforts and all your courage and all your work to establish that park and to then continue the legacy. And I think there's something very important and very beautiful about the park beyond just its presence, but you know, I like what Victor is making reference to. The energy has a lot to do with what we are feeling and what we're experiencing. And I think, as so many people have said, es tierra sagrada, very, very much so at so many levels. And I couldn't appreciate that until a few years after. I think when we lost Chunky, I think when the crazy sailor killed so many people, it just really gave me a real special feeling. And one of the things that I've thought a lot about that I don't think I've shared with any of you is that, you know, sacred places are supposed to be quiet. You know, like when you go to a church, esté bien calladito, you know, hey, shh. But what's beautiful about the park, which makes it the park and makes it chingon, is it's loud. And I think there's something sacred about that. In other words, you're changing that around. And it's not that you have to be quiet. It's not that, you know, you got to step real lightly like when you're in the library. No, man, it's about celebrating. And that loudness, to me, it's actually a form of silence, if you get what I'm saying, because it gets to a point where you don't hear it anymore. It gets to the point that you're there so often and you're there giving tours and talking to people that there's something amazing about that. And when you get to the point where you can shut it out, which I know residents have to do continually, that's when it gets to that different understanding of what the parque represents. So I just that's what's on my mind. And the fact that we're near the frontera, I think, is something that we don't fully grasp. I think that's kind of some work for the future in terms of how are we tied to this region? How are we tied to Tijuana and the whole, you know, I know the artists did a lot of that work early on. I know, Victor, you've always been speaking about that. I think when we had the Indios Voladores trying to make those ties with Mexico, I think they're very, very important. So thank you, Josie, for that. I want to take the last question and add from another question that I didn't ask. And then after that, if anybody has any closing thoughts or ideas, by all means, we can open that up for any thoughts or conversations. But I want to end with sort of a question around the future and ask you, what advice do you give to our youth to keep the vision of the park going? And what should the next generation remember? And also, what should we preserve? Because, you know, it's a national landmark. We now have a museo coming on board. So a big part of the conversation is, what are we going to preserve? What are we going to hold on to? So that your children and your children's children and even your children's children's children will remember to keep the park alive, and also to keep in mind our theme this year: healing our park, educating the present, and leading into the future. So anything that you would like to share around that would be great to hear. So again, let me start with the Cruz and Camarillo group there.
You.
To respect it. I would say that the biggest thing would be for the youth to respect the park. And the only way that they can really respect it is by being educated of the takeover, everything that we went through. And in talking, because when I've done some tours, it's kind of like freaks some people out, the younger people. And they say, well, we want to go back home and, try and work something like that. Because you have to really do a whole couple of days of educating them on the park. Let them actually spend the days in the park, watching what goes on in the park. And that will make them, I think, they'll feel closer. You gotta feel the park, not just walk through it and say, oh, that's a pretty park. Oh, look at that beautiful mural. They gotta feel it within themselves. The cactus garden, all of it. And that's what I've seen in tours that I've done, that that's what makes them go, whoa, wow, knowing that it was done by people just like them.
Yeah, I think, I agree with Tommie. I think the biggest thing is just the education pieces, and not education in the sense of having to have a formal education, but just taking that time to look inward, look at yourself, look at your roots. If we look at people here, I know when I was younger, I asked Tommie about school and how it was for her, and she told me they weren't even allowed to speak Spanish, and it's a lot of these things that people have fought for before us that we don't even realize it, or we just take it for granted. The classes that are dual language, the opportunity to go to school and be with your friends and speak whatever language you'd like, the free lunch programs, all these things are all fought for, and to have that ability, and it's just recognizing that everything has always been a struggle for us. And I think with the youth, it's just a matter of taking that in and then humbling yourself to a point where you're willing to listen. It's not about, you don't have to be the next big activist that goes out there, and you don't have to be at the forefront. You don't have to be the one that speaks. You don't have to be the name. You don't have to be anything. You just have to be a part of it. And I think when I look at the park, that's what makes it so special, because it's not about who gave the most and who gives this and who gives that. It's about that hour somebody spent that day. It's about that 10 minutes that they took during their work week to give that time to the park. It's us making it happen. And I think it's up for us as the next generation and those after me that we have to make that time. We have to make that time to educate ourselves, to humble ourselves and go do that work. We make the sandwiches, take the time to educate somebody about, something in a humble way too. Because if you have an education doesn't mean you got to talk down to somebody either. It's a matter of being inclusive, being open, and just trying to talk. And so we can get back to that carnalismo, that brotherhood. And it's a beautiful thing because, as someone mentioned, that energy is out there. When we went through the Southwest, we see them in Cuatro Milpas, in Phoenix, following under Tupac, someone who's been there as well, and just taking that and trying to apply it in their way and teaching their kids. We see it in Denver, La Raza Park, that push for it to finally become La Raza Park. It doesn't need the city recognition, but that push of bringing in the next generation to make it official, that's what makes it beautiful. In El Paso, our sister park, they're fighting the same fights that we are. We're trying to just maintain our community.
Which one was the one that you took?
Blueprints of El Paso.
El Paso.
Yeah, in El Paso. These are all our sister parks. And like Tommie said, if the youth just come to the park on any day, something's going to happen. Even during COVID, there's action still happening. If you go to the park, you can, before COVID, you can see Union doing their work. You can see the Brown Berets doing their work. You can see the steering committee doing their work. And with the park, what makes it special is it's a combination of everybody coming together. And that's where you can find your niche. You can find where you might belong. You can find where you can get plugged in the right way. Because at the end of the day, all of us are fighting for the same thing. And I think it's just a matter of being aware of that wanting to get involved and understanding just the history, that nothing was ever given to us. It might be easy now. You might see a couple of successful Mexicanos, Chicanos, but that's not the solution. That doesn't mean it's over. You know, they might think so, but it's not.
I just want to say that it's such an honor to be a part of the park, and I want to thank you all for all the work that you've done. I've signed up, I guess, since the restoration, and didn't really realize that there's so much work to be done. And I look at the generations and generations of families that have been doing the work. You know, the elders, their children, then their children, then their grandchildren. And I look forward to that because I see my family and I think about other children that can be a part of Chicano Park. And that really, you know, makes me feel good. It makes me feel good about where we're going and what we're doing and how we're educating them and how we're involving them. And so I just want to say that I'm here. I signed up for generations to come, and thank you.
If I could just add one more thing, I can't have Jesse on here and not do my work as an organizer. If any youth want to get involved, you can find us on Instagram, Chicano Park _official. You can find us on Facebook. We're working on a TikTok. We're trying to make it as accessible as possible for you to get involved. So just hit us up, even if it's just a question, just to start. Just hit us up. We're here. We can plug you in our lunch programs, our cleanups. If you have an idea, bring it forward. Let's talk about it. But just get plugged in and get involved and contact us.
Gracias. Tina, por favor.
Well, I think the most important thing is, like everybody already said, is educating our youth. You know, I think it's the main thing that we have to teach everybody, and to respect the park, you know, not to tag it, you know, to take care of it as if it's our corazon, you know. I think that's really important, especially, you know, all of the youngsters that are, you know, new people, well, new youth around Logan and whatnot. And I think it's just important for us to be there, set the example, and educate, you know. I mean, how proud am I? I mean, my familia has been there, my mother to my son, my daughters, both of my daughters, my nephew, my niece, all of us. I mean, the whole family works Chicano Park Day from beginning to end, you know, and it's a beautiful thing. I can't complain about it. It's hard work, but it's a beautiful thing. And I just think that we need to just teach our youth, you know, how to respect our elders, how to take in their palabra, you know, and honor their palabra, you know, because without them, to be honest with you, we wouldn't even have nothing, you know. And I just am so grateful, you know, to be part of this panel. I'm so grateful to have learned from Jose Gomez, Ronnie Trujillo. I mean, the best of the best. Irene Mena, you know, my grandma Irene, you know, and then to have my kids right alongside, you know, Lucas, all of the work he's doing, you know, it's amazing. And it makes my heart completely full, and so proud of him and my familia and everybody else, you know, that helps out with the parque, you know. And we just got to always remember to love and respect that park, because that's our corazon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Annie.
I think on the education point, what always comes back to me is that the education goes all different directions. You know, you learn from older, younger, different paths and all of that together. And I guess my other point with the education part is you educate us, I educate you, we all are in this together, but also just show up. One of the things I love about Chicano Park Day is because I really love to make the trash cans and put the trash cans out and work on trash all day. But I have met, you know, I don't know that all of them ever came back, but, you know, a lot of them will just come, get their t-shirt and leave, no matter what age they are. They're 18 or 88. But there's always at least a couple that really want to know more about the park, that see how much work goes on. And, you know, and they only have a little kernel of what really happens, because that's just that day. We've been working on this for a year, you know, before putting it on. But I guess, you know, that encouraging to educate, and that we can all learn from one another. just to show up for future inclusion, and also sort of thinking about other ways to involve others, to make people feel included. I really hope one day we get an app together, an interactive map, so we can put the history on there. People can walk around and learn more. We could have little excerpts of the muralists, of Chicano Park activists, of activists in general, that you could just get that on your phone as we move forward with social media. I'm just so excited to see more of that happen one of these days, and to have it in Spanish, English, any other languages. Yeah, anyway, I'm honored, and now I'm going to be close to Josie, less eloquent, but more towards tears.
Gracias, familia Sanchez.
Yeah, one point that I wanted to make was that historically, to me, in retrospect, it was a convergence of energy that brought all of these different animas, all of these different espíritus together to retake, which was ours and has always been ours. And when I say ours, I'm talking about las naciones indígenas de estas tierras. We didn't go across the ocean. We are in our homeland, and our brothers and sisters' homeland. And it's the Chicano Park is more than a park, okay? Bottom line, it's more than a park. It's a concept beyond the earth and the sun and the moon. It's a sacred place. We're lucky to have this tangible place where we can go and honor our antepasados and relearn what we already know genetically, to relearn our genetic memory and what has been denied to us for hundreds and hundreds of years. And that's what we have to teach our youngsters. We have to teach them by bringing them to the park. Like Tina said, my mom drove me to the park. And that's what I've done with my kids and my grandkids and my great-grandkids. And I love the Chicano Park book, El Espíritu de Chicano Park. My great-granddaughter just told me, Nana, I have that book you gave me, and I take good care of it because my tata's in that book. And that's how we pass our history down to our kids. Not by forcing them, but showing them the love of being in this sacred place, that this was created and is being taken care of for them. And like one of my granddaughters, I asked her, when I'm gone, are you going to go to Chicano Park and take care of it? She said, yes, Nana. Yes, Nana. And that's how we pass it on. And that's how we bring the healing from the past to the present and on to the future. And we're all saying educate. And remember Chunky song, educate, don't incarcerate. Los otros, they want to incarcerate us. They've been incarcerating us for years and killing us. But we also have to remember, we can't incarcerate ourselves or each other, okay? We have to free our minds and free our hearts and not be dependent on things that are bad for us. That once we learn our truth, nothing can stop us. Nothing can stop us. Dali?
I would just like to say that us, when I say us, this panel, our family that are not here, but still a part of this it's still part of this panel. You know, us as a community and as a non-blood family, but still family, we still support each other in many ways. And I think that's really important. And something that really keeps us bounded together. And it shows in our family and each other's kids. And when our kids see that, they acknowledge it and they see that respect that we have for the park and everything that we do when we support each other. You know, Lucas, I think about the times we've drove through for lunches, you know, that's a tangible, you know, substance that these kids love, that we need that. Our families are still struggling. You know, that's a real thing. So, and they see where we get the lunches, and they see who we're supporting, and who's feeding them and why. It's significant, and it's still within our family. And as long as we keep true to ourselves and the loyalty that we bring to this community and the strength that we show them, they pick that up, that energy and that respect. And then that's the stuff that sticks with them. And then they will willingly learn, and subconsciously learn why we do those things, why we go there, why we're part of this, why it's so meaningful to us, and then hence to them. That's all.
Gracias, Jesse.
Let me unmute myself. Here again, just honored and humbled to be among this group. And I think your closing question is an excellent and very appropriate question, Alberto. What do we want to advice do we want to give young people? I would like to say that I think it's important that young people remember that it took us over 500 years to get to Chicano Park, that nothing happens overnight. I love the symbol for the Zapatistas is the caracol, because it's their understanding that the struggle is not something that's going to happen overnight, that this is a protracted struggle. And like the caracol, just determination, that eventually we will reach our goal. When I say determination, I think the important word here, and you've heard it several times today, is about self-determination. I think this struggle is born in the concept of self-determination, that we as a community need to decide for ourselves what's best for us, our children, and the future of our community. My advice to young people would be, don't let them co-opt you. You know what I mean by that? Throughout our struggle over and over and over again, they've tried to make us go away, and we're still here. And many of the ways they do that is by throwing, little huesitos our way that we end up fighting over. Another way they do that is trying to define for us who we are. And that's one of the reasons that really bothers me about this whole thing about Latinx that you hear about. I believe everybody has a right, to self-identify. And if you choose to call yourself Latinx, I respect that. But what I do not respect is the fact that you think that I have to be what you want me to be. Okay? I'm Chicano, and I hope, to die as a Chicano. And that's part of that self-determination that comes from that understanding, okay, that there will always be outside forces who try to change our direction, who try to change who we are and what we're fighting for. And you have to ask yourself the question, young people, why is it that way? My answer to that would be is that they're afraid of us. They're afraid that if we ever come together and we ever organize as a people, that we will begin to demand what's rightfully ours. We're not asking for more than anybody else. We're just asking for equality. We're not asking for more, but we sure in the heck do not want less. And that's been a big part of this struggle. So I think if you use that as your foundation moving forward, that, we're fighting for equality, that we're not going to let some outside force identify who we are. And no matter how hard they try to, eliminate us, like they did our ancestors through genocide, okay, both physically and psychologically, that we will continue to fight. That self-determination, that fire in our heart, will never die. So hasta la victoria siempre. Keep fighting. Don't give up, and don't let nobody tell you who you are and what you can or cannot do. Si se puede.
Vale, si se puede. Órale, Víctor.
Well, yesterday I met the editor of the City College newspaper over there. I think Josie, you talked to him also.
Gabriel.
He started off his talk by saying that he was raised by another couple, that his parents left him, he was raised by this couple, and they didn't really teach him anything about who he was or who he is or where he came from or anything. And he apologized to me to say, well, I don't know anything about being a Mexican, being Chicano. He didn't know what Hispanic meant or Latino meant. And he was just, I looked at him and I sort of felt sorry for him, but I looked at him and I said, hey man, you're not the only one. You know, I've been encountering so many young people that don't know anything about their families, their heritage, any important people in their history. And then I said, don't they teach you something about Cesar Chavez in your high school social studies class? And he goes, no, they don't. They don't do that anymore either. They don't even do that. I remember that in the 60s, they started putting Cesar Chavez in there. So the situation, you know, with education, to me, I think is something that we, you know, since we started the Centro Cultural, we had talleres de arte of all the different disciplines. We were always worried about the kids. And, you know, I think we did a fairly good job, but I think we got a lot of work to do. I'm just saying that this is an issue that is one of our big issues to how do we keep the next generations informed. I know when I paint a mural, I'm always thinking that it's an open book that they can see and they can read that. But you know, I think all of us do some kind of an educational thing, whatever it is that we're doing. But I'm telling you, it's gotten worse. And I every time I talk to a lot of young people, they have less and less information. They you know, from even basic stuff to you know, it's really bad. You know, I mean, I do find a lot of hopeful people that I'm hoping that they'll be part of the future, but we have a lot of work to do, and that's why this virtual thing is so important to me. I want to make sure that it reaches out as many people as possible, and it's quickly accessible to youth of all ages, because they're the ones that are more into computers, that be able to go into it. And hopefully they don't think this is too boring. And it says, oh man, here these guys talking and talking. You know, I know their attention span is different. You know, I worry about those things. I want to hear music going on here. You know what? You know, I don't know. You know, because I like music, but I think that the future generations, we need to make sure that we keep their attention going and really teaching them. Let's keep on working, you guys. Another 51 years.
Yes, Josephine.
Yeah. Well, when I think about the next generation, I think, and especially the next generation that doesn't really understand all of our history. I think by Chicano Park being listed on the National Register of Historic Places and now being a national landmark, changes the dynamic somewhat. Doesn't make it, how do you say, we don't need that to validate us, but I think the next generations can say, since it's a landmark and landmark is based on history, there's an impetus, how do you say, an effort to get them to look at history and to maybe interview elders that are still around. And I think that's important. When I think about, you know, the criteria for the National Register or landmark status, there are a number of different criteria that they put forward. And then there are another categories of how to define those criteria. And one that stayed with me was patriotism. And I looked at that and I thought to myself in terms of correlating, how do I explain that? How do I write that so that it reflects our commitment, our patriotism? You know, a patriot is one who loves and supports and defends his or her country, its interest with devotion. And I think we are all very patriotic with regard to loving and defending our Chicano Park. They talk about sacred land. Chicano Park is our sacred land. Alberto calls it our homeland, or I forget, Alberto, homeland. Our, you know, he uses that term, and I've thought about it a lot, trying to understand what that means for me. I think we're devoted to our community. I think we're vigorous over our park. And I think that education falls right in line with that. And that's what I hope the vision of the museum will bring forth, so that people can come to the museum and learn. And hopefully with it, as our archives grow and the community becomes more interested, they can do research there and combine it with other archives. SEMA at Santa Barbara, San Diego State is collecting, USD is collecting, UCSD is collecting. And I think that that's an effort that's important. You know, when my husband Armando Cid passed, right before he passed away, I was still working at the California Arts Council, and I thought, and he told me, you know, how long are you going to keep working? And I said, well, a bit longer. And he says, you got projects to finish. And I didn't quite understand what he was talking about at the time. And I just said, well, what do you mean? You know, I'm thinking, you know, I just wasn't there. He says, you've got to finish doing that work for Chicano Park. And I read, okay. I'm working on that. And I mean, he gave me a couple of directives. Well, that was the main one. Finish that, finish the documents on the RCAF, the Royal Chicano Air Force, because I was doing that. And then he said, all of it fits together. All of it is about our gente, and all of it is important for the next generation to learn. When I think about my kids, you know, I wasn't dragging them to the park every day because I was in Sacramento, but they knew Chicano Park. And what was really interesting, and this one tore me up, Isabel, you're gonna crack up, but or not. I hope you hope it doesn't make you sad. But when Chunky passed, my youngest grandson, Joseph, because he loves Chicano Park, because he loves San Diego, and because he loves the ocean. I mean, he loves the ocean, but I had said Chunky had passed, and he was just a little tyke, and you know, and he just says, "What do you mean? What's wrong?" And then he kept going, "Chicano Park, Chicano Park. Que viva Chicano Park." And then he says, no. Chunky didn't pass. Or, you know, something along the lines. I don't remember the exact words, but he says, he started talking about the Chicano Park samba. He says, he's still here. And I said, you know what, Mijo, you're right. He's still here. And so, for the next generation, I'm hoping you'll use the museum as a tool. And I hope that you will study museum studies, and you will come and run it, because we're waning here. You know, we're on the last leg, a couple of us, you know, at least I feel like I am. And I'm hoping that you all will, as the next generation, will take up the gauntlet and run the museum and remain true to our commitment, and really maintain a strong validation for Chicano Park, because that's really the reason why there is going to be a Chicano Park Museum, because of Chicano Park. So that is yours. I think that's where I'll leave that.
Gracias, gracias, Rigoberto.
Gracias. You know, one thing that I would like to share with youth is that the fact is that you can't forget where you come from. And unfortunately, and I mean that, I don't mean it in very general terms, but I mean it kind of like, you know, if the huarache fits, please wear it. I think that we have an identity crisis with our youth. Our youth, at least I still have teenager, and that identity is a big factor. Kids don't know, and the fact is the different influences that they're being exposed to, whether it be to games, through music, to whatever, they identify stronger probably with those folks than they do with their own culture. And I think that's something that us that still have that ganas or that drive to educate. And I totally agree with Josie as far as the museum being that hub. I venture to say that within the Chicano Park Museum and Cultural Center, we need to open up the Chicano Park University.
Yes,
because we need to educate the people. It's going to be up to us. We might not have the PhDs, but we have the know-how. We've been doing it for 51 years. And if that next generation, whoever that might be, is going to pick up that torch, I need to be prepared for it. And it's up to us to prepare them. And I really hope that anybody watching this particular video, and people have said it here, everybody in this panel are committed, son gente de razón. And there's a lot of knowledge here. We probably have 500 years of knowledge right here in this panel. And we cannot forget that. And hopefully kids, youth that are watching this will take advantage of that. Use the museum. The museum is going to be, I'm totally convinced that the museum is going to be our next university here in the barrio. Gracias.
Yeah.
Your turn, Alberto.
When I was, I don't know, 20 years old, I found out that my abuela was from Nuevo Mexico. I had never known this because it's a long story, but Juanita Amador was from Rincon, New Mexico, by way of Morenci, Arizona, ended up in Oxnard and met my grandfather. The reason I'm telling you that is it's really weird, but I had for the longest time this connection to Nuevo Mexico, not knowing why, but then as it was revealed that my abuela, who died unfortunately at the age of 28 in Camarillo State Hospital, there was a reason. So I spent about 10 years of my life in Nuevo Mexico, not continually, but I would go back almost every summer. And I met and I worked very closely with a group of men, predominantly there were women, but it was predominantly men known as Los Hermanos Penitentes. And they're from throughout New Mexico and they're very religious community. They're Catholic, but they're not part of any official Catholic teaching. But anyway, I'm telling you this because they taught me something very powerful. They taught me about la oración y el buen ejemplo. And I want to connect that to the parque because the hermanos had a very strong belief that la oración was through action. What you did is how you prayed. You prayed through acts. And as we look at the parque as a sacred space, I can't think of how many prayers we have said, but also how many prayers we have done. And so when I think about our youth, we have an example here And I'm hoping, and we need to remind them that the example is in us, and we also have to remember that people are watching us. So therefore, we have to continue to remember this. We have set the example for many years. Some of you here, Tomasa, Josie from the very beginning, Isabel, and then the generations to follow. And so I want to convey that feeling of el ejemplo que se ha puesto por parte de ustedes, and that our youth need to continue to follow that way, that pattern. And so it's a very beautiful thing and an honor. Now, I have something else which just is really weird, because as people were talking, it came to my brain. And with your permission, I'd like to share it. You know, I still remember, and I have it here. I got it right now off my computer, because I said, man, I remember now. On April 25th, which was Chicano Park Day last year, I wrote like a poem because I was hurting. It was 5:15 in the morning. And I was thinking to myself, at 5:15 in the morning, right now, we'd be at the park and all kinds of crazy stuff happening, you know, and Tommie yelling and Tina and, you know, the whole chaos. And, you know, waiting for burritos, for Chelos burritos to show up. I mean, it's just that feeling, right? Every year. And so I wrote this, and I'm not a poet, but I want to dedicate it to all of you because of what you've shared. And I want to read it slowly because I think it says a lot how I felt, and it was the way to deal with the sadness that we weren't gathering, you know? So let me go at it. It's called Happy Chicano Park Day, and I dedicate it to all of you. It says, we always arrive to Chicano Park under the cover of darkness y con un chingo de frío. Tommie walking in the four directions, clipboard in hand, taking care of business in both Inglés and Español, and not taking shit from anybody. Lowriders everywhere, blasting their rolas with a crying siren as an added bonus. Desesperados con anticipación to park their ranflas for the day. The CPSC in full force, exhausted like you can't imagine, but so excited. Y filled con so excited, filled con orgullo because we have made it another year. Es una mañana of beautifully organized chaos. And regardless of all the chingazos, disputes, and broncas over the past year, and all of the pinche money we still owe the mayor, we all feel so good because it's our day and no one is there to take it from us. Nosotros rifamos. No one can stand in the way because we have done it on our own. Otra vez, otro año. It's an awesome feeling. Con música, danza, homies, color, art, copal, juventud, knowledge y un chingo de recuerdos y lágrimas con los que se nos adelantaron durante el año. Bendiciones a nuestra tierra sagrada este día y para siempre. Y bendiciones a cada de ustedes. Que viva Chicano Park y que viva Chicano Park 51. All right. So any other closing thoughts? Any closing ideas? Anything? I'm so glad.
Tommie has her hand
Really?
up.
What you just said, could I have a copy for my library?
You sure can, Tommie, anytime. I'll even sign it for you.
Me too.
Okay, good. My library is open all the time anyway.
All right.
You're not on mute anymore.
Any other closing thoughts, or are we ready to say goodbye?
You're not on
Any
mute.
last words?
I think Victor's gonna show us something.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
brown
Zeke,
image.
look at this.
Brown image.
Zeke, you did a brown image pillar.
Cool. Yeah, they're working on their mural.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Well, it's
Beautiful.
the sample, like a mock-up.
Nice. Victor, can you?
Okay. That's what it's gonna look like, right?
Just
Your
a
voice
big,
is turned
a big shout out to everyone we lost this past year and this year.
Presente.
Presente a todos, todos presentes.
No, I think we've had a beautiful day here today, brother Alberto. I didn't know you were such a poet, bro. And well, bro. I mean, you know, that was beautiful, carnal. You know, what I mean, you just made about a dozen adults cry. Yeah, you made about a dozen adults cry. You know, because I think you captured the spirit of the park. And my favorite part, I loved it all, but my favorite part, because I visualized it, when that was like Tommie running around like a human pinball machine, you know, and everybody and their mother wanting something at the same time. And this little tiny woman holding her ground. It's like, hey, I've been doing this for X amount of years. I got it. Shut up and go do what you're supposed to do. Everybody here's got a job. Go do your job. And I have so much respect for everybody here. But I would be lying if I didn't share that. I love all of you, but I have to tell Tommie Camarillo, woman, I could never, ever express the respect, the gratitude that I have, the acknowledgement for all of your sacrifices. We've all sacrificed. But Tommie, 24/7, 365 days a year for over 51 years. Young people, if we look tired, it's because we are. Okay? Like Sister Josie said, you know, and Sister Isabel, you know, we've lost a lot of great leaders, you know, and unfortunately, you know, some of us others here that you see today, you know, will also be going and transitioning to the next world. But I know I can speak for myself, that I can die in peace, knowing that the next generation is going to pick up the bandera. And yes, that the museo will be a way for the next generation to come and pick up where we left off. This is your struggle. This is your movement. We have the roadmap, and we'd be more than happy to share with it. But I get young people all the time that ask me, can you do this? Can you do that? No, I can't. Okay. I'm on the back end of the curve. I can barely walk. This is your struggle. So with that said, I started out giving thanks to Tommie and sister. I cannot really ever express how much respect and appreciation I have for you, for all of you. But for Tomasa, I always have a tear in my eye.
Absolutely. I agree. Que viva Tommie!
Que viva
Tommie!
Gracias.
Bueno, pues thank you again, each and every one of you. I will definitely share this as soon as I get it. I'll share it with everybody. Make sure you download it, otherwise it'll disappear. So put it on your computer for preservation. And I know, Lucas, you're going to go ahead and upload it for the events. Anything to, well, we don't need to say that. So that's it.
I just want to invite everybody here, and this will air next week, but tomorrow, Saturday, 4/17, from 2 to 4, we're doing.
It's already passed, Josie.
Pardon me?
It will already have passed by the time this airs.
No, I know, but you can retrieve it. You'll be able to retrieve it. So join us. And I'm sending the link out to the steering committee this evening. Tomorrow, it's called Mi Tierra Mía, and from activism, education. I don't have all the words, Alberto. I don't even have it.
I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, it's going to be a good event.
Que viva Chicano Park.
Que viva.
Que viva Chicano Park.
Que viva.
Dios.
Hasta la victoria siempre.
Hasta la victoria siempre.
Hasta la